Horizon TV, the beacon for the nation.
Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Very good evening. My name is Faisal Kassim and welcome to Live Real Talk. Somebody just texted me right now. Allow me to read this text. This is my former producer by the name Suleiman Neches of Tumbo, currently doing great things traversing Africa. Nasema, my friend, I'm waiting for LRT. That is exactly 8:13. It's 8:16, boss. Hatujachelewa sana. I hope you're doing well. Karibu sana, wherever you're watching us from. Alhamdulillah, finally Kenyans have nothing to celebrate. Kenyans have nothing to be happy about. 2020 May, on the 14th, 15th to be precise, His Excellency the President came out and announced the first COVID case in this country. Ever since, nothing has been normal again. When COVID relaxed a bit, then came the campaigns. When campaigns ended, then the elections. That, alhamdulillah, they were peaceful. Then the election petition, then the swearing in, which happened 2 days ago on the 13th of September 2020. Now, biashara iendelee. Hakuna tena story ya, wacha tungoje president, wacha tungoje. I don't know what's going to be the excuse for the order of the day not to resume. I'm honored this evening to talk to two amazing people on this set tonight. Talk about young Muslims in leadership. We've seen a number of Muslims taking up active roles throughout the campaign period and even now when the government is taking shape. But the legislature and even the executive is slowly, it's starting to form polo. We're getting some hints here and there. And even the judiciary, we saw Muslims coming out and performing wonderfully, like the infamous Get Over It. But again, before we get into the details of the conversation, let's listen to what people on the streets had to say about Muslim, particularly Muslim in women in leadership. Aban, you have it?
In women leadership, I know women, they value accountability. Women value relationships. And anytime you have a woman leader around you, they are our mothers. So they know the value of a girl child and a boy child. So that is why I see, as we have many leaders in women this time round, we know there will be a lot of changes in our country. We know our children are taken care of.
Women leaders are very important in terms of empowering a girl child and a boy child, because first it's women who understand women's problems. For example, there's issue of reproductive health care, there's issue of access to safe delivery, issue of addressing maternal and neonatal deaths. That is women who know it better than men.
Wacha tuone kama kuna maendeleo watatufanyia, kwa sababu tunasemanga pali mama yuko hapaharibiki neno. So we are hoping pengine watatufanyia maendeleo sisi wa mama, na watasaidia wa mama wale ambao hawajiwezi, mayatima. That's what we are hoping kwa hii serikali mpya ya mama, because hata wa mama magavana walichaguliwa wengi.
Thanks so much, Abashemi, for that amazing voice. But before I introduce my guests and my panelists this evening, allow me to do a bit of an explain about the Vox Pop we just watched. So basically, initially wanted to invite Honorable Miraji Abdullahi, who's also nominated senator under the UDA ticket. And the reason for that was to try and delve much into, of course, the expectations on women leadership, as Noordean and I were to give our comments here and there. But again, she lost her sister last night. We say, Paula Sana Mushimiwa, inshallah, we're looking forward to have you here again. Inshallah, we'll be back in Nairobi. And now, to the guests. Let me start with Noordean, and then I'll come to the best among us. Noordean, you've seen this guy. You've seen this guy before, but I'm tutupa sana. Since you haven't been here. This have been here how many times?
I haven't been here this year. I think the last time was 2020. If I'm
2021, it must
2021,
be.
Yeah, probably.
Also 2022,
yeah.
That was the last time you were here.
Let's say early 2021, for sure.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's been long. It's been long. Karibu sana, bro. Always a pleasure to have you around.
Likewise.
One of the best dressed lawyers I've seen in town.
We try. It's part of the trade. It's one of the things you're taught when you go to law school. Yeah.
Interesting. Then I think somebody should be taken through law school. Somebody that we both know to achieve. I didn't mention anybody. I didn't mention anybody. And the best among us, Mheshimiwa, arguably the youngest MP in the National Assembly?
Second, yes.
After Toto. So
Yes.
it's Toto than you?
Yes.
Ah, okay. Don't tell us your age. Umulkheir, Harun, pleasure to have you around. Thank you so much for making time for us, Mheshimiwa.
Thank you, thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you for
amazing.
having me as well.
Amazing. Guys, karibuni kwanza maji. Chai, I think itakuwa offered once you're done with the show. But again, first things first. His Excellency William Samoei Ruto, against all odds, state intimidation, humiliation, and everything that he has said, he has been subjected to. He was inaugurated and sworn in as the 5th president of Kenya on the 30th of September. 2 days only. A lot has happened. Umi, let's start with you. What do you take of the few days of Ruto's presidency so far?
Personally, I'm not surprised because there's a reason why I didn't campaign or join his team. Because of the chaos. Because of the chaos we are seeing today, yeah?
Shots fired.
Yeah, so when I see Kenyans complain, and I think it's a cycle we're used to. The first 2 years you spend time complaining and just stamping that, you know, we'll send them home, miaka tano itaisha. Then the 3rd year we gear up for campaigns. 4th year we go full blown into campaigns. Then we take tribal angles and we take mtu wangu syndrome. Then the 5th year you elect those same people. Then you come back to
So you anticipated this chaos?
So for me, I honestly, because my argument was, His Excellency has been in power for the last 10 years. And during his term, we witnessed a lot of unfortunate, unforeseen events. His argument is he was sidelined. For me, as a commoner, I couldn't justify that because I'm like, you sit in very high offices. Why wouldn't you not even at least try to influence 1 or 2 things? So for me, mine was not influenced by anything, but more like action and things that I saw on the ground. I come from Northeastern where, you know, bodies of young people are being retrieved from bodies, from water bodies. So when, again, you know, with my own conscience, I go and campaign for that same administration, it goes against my values. So for that reason, I didn't
join the campaign.
I didn't join that camp. So when Kenyans are here complaining of fuel, but we're told it's bottom up. So I think this is what bottom up meant. You know, they take prizes from the bottom, take it to the top. It's happening. For me, I'm not surprised.
Wow.
And it's 2 days now.
Yeah, just
so
2 days.
He has about 97, 8 days to go.
What?
Out of his first 100. So we see how it goes.
We wait and see.
Mine is not to judge, mine is to observe because serikali si kujenga.
And you're there to account as well. Because you're in the National Assembly and one of your roles is to oversight the executive.
Certainly,
right?
certainly. And fiercely, I'll definitely do that.
Yeah, interesting. We are waiting for to see that. Noordean, tried to vie up until the nominations of the UDA for the Dagoretti North Member of Parliament. You were here, we wished you well. Campaigned for you indirectly.
Oh, you did.
Yes. And you bowed out of the race, and you were in the Kenya Kwanza camp. What do you take out of your president's first few days in office, 2 days in office?
First and foremost, I didn't bow out. Allah's time is the best, and He decrees what and when happens. As for what we are seeing, anyone who thought that upon assuming office that things will just change automatically was lying to themselves, because we have to be honest with one another. Our economy is ailing. We have a sick economy, and things have to be planned. We can't rush into anything. You see, the crisis that is the economy, inject the fuel, and all things you can just wish away. And you just can't take money from somewhere and pump it and make sure everything goes away. So I believe people need to, first and foremost, Kenyans must learn to take care of the expectations. Because sometimes you have too much expectation that you end up being disappointed. She talked about something here, that we always run for the first 2 years, and then the 3rd year, we're in the campaign cycle. The 4th, 5th year, before we know it, we end up electing the same people but in different vehicles. Now, the sad reality is that we vote via euphoria and tribal lines. We don't interrogate issues, and I've always had an issue with the fact that political parties or presidential candidates release their manifestos a month to the election. For me, I believe that thing needs to be released early enough. 4 months, maybe 6 months, so Kenyans can actually understand, why am I voting for this person? Because when you vote for mtu wangu, as she says, that mtu wako, when he comes into office and doesn't touch whatever you thought he or she would touch magically, and your life changes instantly, you start complaining. So we have to grow in that we understand. We start voting, let's say, ideas and ideals, so that we can actually change our political landscape. Because I do believe we are still in that archaic mode of euphoria and what do you call this, and tribal politics. And that is why when you talk about certain political figures, their strongholds is more or less their home ground. Why can't you have a stronghold that is not your home ground? You get? Because that tells you how our politics is inclined. It's more or less pro-ethnic as opposed to ideas.
Interesting enough. If you're talking about ethnicity here, I think let's try and engage a bit objectively on this matter. This time, would you comfortably say that still Kenyans voted the same ethnic lines? One, President Uhuru Kenyatta was still arguably the Mount Kenya kingpin, right? And him being the Mount Kenya kingpin, he came out and openly and supported the Azimio candidate. But still, the Azimio candidate only got an addition of 600,000 votes in the Mount Kenya. But again, not about William Samoei Ruto, right? He got a bigger majority. President Uhuru Kenyatta, together with the Azimio team, had a lot of Western leaders, right, in their camp. But still, Ruto managed to garner, for example, in Bungoma County, 69%, right? When you go to Kakamega, he garnered 40% in Kakamega, right? Yet, we have the likes of Akina Atwoli, the likes of Akina Eugene Omalwa, Ayub Savola, Ferdinand Baraza, among us many other seasoned politicians who are all in the Azimio camp. But again, Ruto still managed to garner those number of votes. Look at Kitui, for example, where Ruto managed to garner 36%. Yeah, yet he had Azimio had the regional kingpin on their side, which is Stephen Kalonzo Musyoka. So, I mean, guys, do you really think that, again, just like any other cycle, this election still was based on ethnicity lines? Umi, I'm going to start with you.
So, I think just from what you've said, again, from where I sit, we had to go to court because those numbers were not convincing to us. Let me just start there. We had to go to court because the numbers were not convincing, but also let's go by your arguments that maybe this time things were different. But for me, I think there's always a factor of the incumbent, that whenever you get the support of the incumbent, it comes with the burdens of that particular regime. So for what happened in central Kenya, I would not say people did not or voted against their kingpin or were out there, you know, the way they put it, to punish Uhuru. For me, I look at it from the angle of, it's just the burden of the incumbent, where we had the support of His Excellency Uhuru Kenyatta, and it came with the advantages and the disadvantages. For us, what we count as a win is we have not been able to even get those votes in Central before. Yeah. We've not. So us getting those votes tells you that at least there was a change of heart, change of mind, change of ideologies to our favor. So which the fact that, which is a win for us.
So it's not necessarily tribal.
No, I don't think for me it's tribal in that particular aspect, but I would think it was way different than look at the votes we got in 2007, look at the votes we got in 2013, 2017 as well. As much as the president came out, and of course they would vote if, you know, the instructions were the same, but if he wasn't president. So that the burden was there. It was sitting right there with us. So
the burden of the incumbent.
Always. It's a factor. I think it has happened in different countries before as well. When you talk about Western or, you know,
calls to Ruto getting 42%, yet Raila had Joho on his side and the likes.
No. again, like I said, there's a reason why we went to court, and the reason still stands from where I sit. So I will not be here. I'll not want to justify.
The numbers are not making sense.
Yes, yes.
Noordean, some question to you. Don't you think this time there was an aspect of ideology? Because I mean, look at the president right now. He started the agenda of this election from way back, I think 4 years ago, when he started talking about economy, and before you know it, every other person who declared interest in this race, he had to start on economy as a launching party into this campaign. That's when Kenyans would listen, right? And then, of course, to add on to that was the global situation, COVID. COVID came, which had ravaging effects on the economic situation. The Russia-Ukraine war, crazy. The inflation currently experienced in the world, crazy again.
But they said that was handshake, not handshake. So I'm wondering.
We are speaking objectively, because these are facts that are.
No, I think that's the elephant in the room. On the campaign trails, we evidently saw His Excellency said, you know, it's handshake. That's why fuel prices are like this. Then 2 days in, the prices have gone up. So I'm like, handshake is gone. Yeah. What could be the reason?
You know, the problem is with our politics. One, like she rightfully says, the issue is propaganda. You know, there's a lot of propaganda during campaigns and smear campaigns. So by the time people get to understand that you're being lied to, you already voted and you've gone.
That's true.
So what happens is, you asked about the ethnic voting this time around. We'd lie to ourselves. We said people still don't vote as per the ethnic lines. Because I'll give you an example. Just look at, for example, the votes that Raila Odinga got in Rift Valley or Ruto got in Luo Nyanza. That explains something. You look at the Ugenya MP from MDG who just decamped to Kenya Kwanza. His own constituents told him, we don't belong to Ruto. You get me? You have a governor who's on record saying, which is, I find very sad, a governor saying that we as the people of Kambani cannot stay in opposition. We need to go to government, forgetting that he himself is government. You get me? So that I'm trying to tell you, the issue about the ethnic voting is still there. The day we move away from that, the better. But sadly, this election was not just about the ethnic lines. There was people are voting to punish someone who, if you ask me, will never be punished. If you ask me, has perks, his life is going on. Yeah. So at the end of the day, it's what happened in Kiambu 2017. People voted out Kabogo and brought in...
They punished Kabogo, they just voted in...
And Kabogo,
anybody but Kabogo.
And Kabogo was never hurt. And the people of Kiambu saw what happened, the pilferage that happened. So at the end of the day, the voter needs to rise to the occasion and understand the importance of voting. You talk about this election was more or less about ideas. If you go to supporters, for example, of Kenya Kwanza or those of Azimio, the local supporter, ask them what the different manifestos were talking about. Most don't know. You get me? So there's no ideas. It's all about, one, you whip emotions, two, you sell propaganda, three, you run campaign and you get your vote. But at the end of the day, now Kenyans are coming to realize that, oh, so mafuta ishuki leo. Because nobody...
Because they were
but at the 100 days, guys, why are you being so hard on the president?
No, I'm not being hard on anyone. I'm not being hard on anyone.
And
the problem is, there are so many lies from our political class. And they don't tell the people the truth. You know, when you tell someone, you know what, I want to change your life, but it won't be instant. Now, they know that can't sell. Yeah. So they tell you, Tarehe 10, ABCD will happen, knowing very well that Tarehe 10 you can't be declared a winner. Tarehe 10 you won't be sworn in, so you don't even have powers to exercise. You get, and that is where the lie comes from. So the earlier we change from that, the better. And I hope the new crop of leaders, I included, who have gone into office, are actually the face of that change we're talking about. For example, I'll give an example. You look at Parliament. You know, right now, they're supposed to have a retreat, both camps.
Yes.
To settle on positions in Parliament.
It's happening actually tomorrow, the meeting? It's happening tomorrow,
Positions
in the next 2 days, yeah?
Yeah.
Positions in Parliament. That is a hotly contested issue because both camps are claiming majority. So that goes to the Speaker. The Speaker will decide. But sadly,
and the
whatever the Speaker decides, we already know that someone will go to seek the interpretation of the court. Okay, that aside. I have a problem with those who believe that I supported the president. He's in office. I'm a member of parliament. I'm in government. You forget that as an MP, you still have oversight over the same government that you elected. So for them, they know we're in government, these other guys are in the cold. It doesn't work that way. That's why I'm telling even the people who seek office, most of them don't even know the functions of the office they're seeking. Someone is busy telling you there are things they'll do without a clear mandate from the constitution.
Hospitali, yet pesa CDF ni kujenga barabara.
Someone is a senator telling you how they bring bursary with no money.
Same with MCAs.
Same with MCAs. Dajenga hospitali. You know, and that is why we have a problem.
MCAs to oversight hospitali in the county government, yeah?
It's the nature of our politics, so you have to make a problem.
But you see, the bigger problem is, when you look at, for example, IBC says it does not have the role of voter education. It throws that to the political class. How will a wolf teach the sheep how to run away from it?
That'll never happen.
It will never happen.
Allow me to break it there. Just before we go on a very short break, I was talking to one of these, one of the leaders in government right now. He tried to vie for a particular gubernatorial ticket and then he lost. Actually, just I think a day or yesterday. Yeah, I think it was yesterday or the day before yesterday. And then he said, you know, after the courts declared us the winner, we got access to some of these places, the government offices, including the treasury. And we went there and we entered the situation of this country and we started regretting why we won. We wish we lost this election.
Yeah.
The situation is bad in this country. Anyway, this and much more after the break, guys. Just hold your thoughts there. Guys, we are coming back. Honorable Umulkheir was very extremely active with Kesho Alliance. What next for her as she is going to parliament? You've heard what the women have said on the streets. Wamesema wanatarajia women are caregivers, the accountability will go up. Should we expect that? This and much more after the break.
Horizon TV, the beacon for the nation.
Quote of the day. Imam Malik bin Anas said, I am but a man. I make mistakes sometimes, and I am correct sometimes. So examine my opinions and accept anything that agrees with the book and sunnah, and leave anything that does not agree with the book and sunnah.
قال تعالى في محكم تنزيله بعد أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم
Ninasaha kutoka pwani.
هذا الدين قال الله قال الرسول قال الصحابة هم أولو العرفان انتهى.
Ili kuongoza kwenye njia iliyonyoka.
Sikizeni hadithi hii ya Mtume alayhi salatu wasalam.
Hakuna atakayeweza kumfungia mtu mlango ambaye Mwenyezi Mungu alimfungulia.
Kuimarisha imani yako.
ثبت قلوبنا على دينك وعلى طاعتك.
Ungana na mashekhi wetu kutoka pwani kwenye mimbar.
Mimbar zinamwakilisha Mtume sallallahu alayhi wasallam.
Ni Jumamosi na wakati saa 3 usiku katika Horizon TV, runinga uipendayo. Horizon TV, the beacon for the nation.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Thanks so much for keeping it live, Real Talk, right here tonight. I mean, two amazing young leaders, differing objectively. One from Kenya Kwanza, the other from Azimio. You're not? You jumped ship?
don't jump anything. I'm not a spokesperson for anyone. Eh?
Yeah, you're not a spokesperson for anybody. But again, you supported. You are associated. Are you not?
I am Noordean Khagai. Simple. Advocate of the High Court of Kenya. Put it that way.
So you...
No.
Okay.
No, nothing much, nothing less.
What do you say in Parliament?
If I were him, I would do the same. And yes?
What do you say in Parliament? Mr. Speaker, I withdraw and apologize. Yes, Mr. Speaker, I withdraw and apologize. Me, the last time... You see, that's the problem of knowing somebody so well. Because now you don't know which hat to put where. You know, me, the way I knew this guy, and for the most part of last year is when he made the decision. In 2021 early, is when he made the decision. I'm going to use this ticket. Anyway, long story short, Umi,
yeah.
Congratulations once again.
Thank you.
The second youngest member of Parliament in the National Assembly. On Kesha Alliance, we saw you very active on Twitter, social media, and all these spaces. What should we expect for Umi as she steps into Parliament?
I think for me, I've worked in the advocacy space for the last 6 years. Straight from when I finished high school, I started in the NGO Kesha Alliance with the sole purpose of, creating access to quality education for young women and girls in ASAL regions. So when you're an activist or when you're in the civil society space, you work hand in hand with legislators, because there's a lot of legislation that you require, there's a lot of oversight that we do as civil society. But now being thrown into the real spaces of now being able to deliver firsthand. Yeah, I mean, one time I was complaining, you MPs do this, you MPs do this, then you realize now you're the MP and you have to do that. So for me, it would just be continuing with that work, because I've been doing it without a title.
Interesting.
So with the same now, I think it will just be a continuation of that. I remember one of the hard-fought policies we had was the MHM policy, which came to pass in 2020. And that process stalled for 6 years. And we're just fighting for basic necessities for access to hygiene materials for young girls. So when I realize now I'm in that space, I would think I should be able now to lobby, deliver for the same people that I used to speak for.
Well, you just preempted my next question. So do you have like an order of priority in terms of what you're focusing on?
Sure.
So what's on the topmost agenda?
I mean, the pinch I feel as a young Kenyan who comes from, or what they call second-class citizens, is the issue of IDs. My ID took a year and a half to be processed. And I remember what I went through that particular time. I needed to register for university. I needed to, even small things like opening an M-Pesa account. I had to use my mother's ID card until I got my ID. So I realized the pain of...
We are laughing.
Yeah, I mean, it's a challenge. It's a serious challenge. So one of the first things I would like to look at is, why do we have all this serious... I know it's a security precaution that we have to vet people before you give them government. But why would you take a year to vet someone who has the birth certificates of their parents? Sometimes you're asked to even bring your grandparents' documents and you wonder why. What for? So for me, the first issue that I would like to address would be, how best can we deliver these documents for young people, especially in border communities, because from then on through that you'll be able to address the discrimination issues, you'll be able to address the insecurity issues we
equalize opportunities basically
and create a level ground for everybody.
Interesting. Noordean, I'm sure because you've acted and you've consulted on matter citizenship, so before you weigh into that, so I just want to pick your mind on your expectations, particularly on young parliamentarians and Muslim parliamentarians, of which we have seen the number grown, alhamdulillah, in this 13th parliament. What are your expectations?
One, better legislation, serious oversight, and better representation. As in, because those are the core functions of those in parliament. Now, when you bring it back home to the young parliamentarian, I'll tell them for free that there is a notion out here that young people are not ready to lead, that young people, when given opportunities, fail. They should realize that they have an entire generation that will be marked according to how they carry themselves. Most don't understand the serious constituency that is the youth that they represent. Because if you go there to play around, or if you go there to just heckle, or if you go there to just, you know that thing, respect the party leader, respect the party line.
Loyalty.
Sadly, and you know, sadly, I know she's a nominated member of parliament. Sadly, for most members of parliament, they are not independent-minded. In that, before they even vote, there's a party position or a party line. And at times, that party line is actually to the detriment of the people. So where do you draw the line? You get me? So for me, I am looking forward to a parliament that, one, we've not had a parliament for the past 10 years. Let me be honest with you. That was an appendix of the government, in that it was captured, it tried to run away, then it was recaptured again. In short, they were more or less like voting machines. And that is why we are where we are, and the economy, people talking about the economy. But before I go there, when we went on the break, you talked about the coffers at Treasury. I would like to tell you that, as we sit here, I have a petition pending for Parliament where we seek a clarification. Before the elections, there's one fellow known as Jimmy Wanjigi who came to the public limelight and said, there is no public debt in this country. We owe nobody nothing. Whatever we have is more or less a scam. Now that was seen as a political statement. Now, we have a newish government. By newish means there are remnants of the former government in this government. Now, my petition seeks clarification on his statement. And since they were in the other government, it shouldn't be hard for them to tell us whether indeed our coffers are empty, or is it just a mechanism to cover yourself when you fail. Whether indeed we don't owe.
So who are the respondents to that petition?
Listen, the petition is going to Parliament. There is going to be a committee, as per how Parliament is set up. The Speaker will guide on how the petition will come through. If they decide to dismiss it, we'll go to court at the end of the day. Because we need clarity on this issue on the national debt. Another thing we need clarity on is we've had a government for 10 years. No single Kenyan has seen any contract the government has entered into for the past 10 years. The government is on record, the former government is on record, because they are remnants, so it's still an extension of the government. It is on record telling us it will release contracts of things like SGR. Never done. So,
this current administration promised they would do that. So
listen, so this is something, she's now a member of parliament. These are things they need to take up, because they are more or less our representatives. As a young person, when I see her there, I feel represented. All right? So if I am represented by a fellow young person and they don't rise up to the occasion, I just hope and pray they don't get swallowed by
party loyalty.
The rest. No, not even party loyalty, by the rest. Because there's more or less, you know, most people out here when they campaign, they are good people. It's like there's a disease that gets to them when they get into parliament.
It's a system.
And I don't, I think members of parliament need to look at their oath of secrecy. The oath they take that day. I think every day when you wake up, before you vote, you should read that thing every single day. But it's like there's a spell. When they get into parliament, they forget that they are representatives. So they become bosses, we become servants. And that is why things like the finance bill that passed the other time, without even them knowing 16% was going to LPG. You ask yourself, where were they? Most of them don't attend parliament. Because for them, when you ask them 5 years after their tenure, they tell you, oh, I was building a school, that is why we are saying CDF must go. Because their core mandate is parliament, but they're never in parliament. They use exercises like bursary, like toilet here, to
ensure development gets to the ground. Only there. Let's wait and see. Are there any timelines for your petition, or it's upon it's at the
don't preempt.
Jurisdiction?
Let them actually settle in. They haven't even settled in.
Who say they haven't even settled?
They haven't.
Umi, interesting that you mentioned citizenship rights. It's a challenge that a lot of Muslims have been going through. Not even the border communities, the Nubian community, which have settled at the heart of the CBD. No, at the heart of the metropolitan, Nairobi metropolitan, right? But still they are going through a 3-tier vetting process, right? Just to try and authenticate or validate or prove that they're actually Kenyans. So not just the borderland communities, but again, it's something that cuts across the Muslim community, right? That is issue number one. Issue number two is that there were themes that were on the floor of parliament or they were being developed. There's the hijab issue that was to be introduced. The Waqf bill, we are still waiting for the president to assent to it and for it to become law. We have issues on matters, security, for example, extrajudicial killing. These are things that affects everybody, but again, it affects Muslim to a different degree altogether. Do you have any plans on that?
So, Riz, I think it was a day or two days ago when we started this conversation on my social media, and you realize most of the time, actually, like you've rightfully said, it doesn't just affect the border community. There was a young gentleman who said he's Langat, but he has a Muslim name as well. So he said, because of my first Muslim name, it took me a lot of procedures to get my document. I don't even know if he succeeded or not. So for me, I know we are minority as Muslims, and that doesn't mean we don't have, we have our rights. The Constitution clearly covers us, that every person has a right to. And it cuts across, and it cuts across. So for me, these are things that I'm very keen on, and I'm glad that you've raised those other bills and he's talked about. I think first thing I have to do is now research what is already there, because I don't want to introduce something that has already been started. I have to sit down, maybe utilize young brains like him to come together. What are the things that we need to pick up of priority to us as a Muslim community? Then we just work slowly towards it. Because for me, I keep saying 5 years is like a snap. If you don't plan. If you don't plan. So for me, I want those 5 years by the time I leave, so that even the young people who come after me would be, like, if we are sent to represent youth in parliament, we are not there to be joyriders or to be swallowed by the larger voices or to heckle, because I have seen a lot of heckling. Now I had to go back and dig deeper files of the house and see how motion is tabled, how things are done, and honestly, it's a lot of noise most of the time. So for me, I would want to leave that mark so that the community I represent, the young people I represent, the constituents I represent who are youth, are able to sit and say, indeed, we did have representation in her. So for me, those are my priorities. First of all, research, find out what is already in place, then take it up, inshallah.
Noordean, anything on citizenship that we can give gladly? Hand it over to.
Actually, there's something the former MP, Kibra MP started.
Yes.
This is Imran Okot, because he was trying to help the Nubian community get identified.
Recognized.
For me, I have an issue with the vetting process.
But again, that was a petition. It wasn't a bill. It was a petition, and it's right now at the desk of, I think, the Interior Minister, whoever who will come in, just
but you see, the beauty about having members of parliament like her, who think like her, they can carry it on from where he stopped. You get? What I'm saying is, the issue I have with vetting is because some feel it's only against Muslims. You get? So for me, it's either you make that vetting process humane or get rid of it. Because if you look at, for example...
How do you humanize it?
Let me tell you. I'll give an example. If you look, for example, there are those, the Nubian community in Kisii. Someone is 35 years of age without an ID. How do you expect that person to work? How are they living? You get? Because they go for a vetting today, it's postponed. Like she just told us, she waited for an entire year and something for an ID. You know that is your right. It is more or less like a birthright. Okay? You're a Kenyan citizen. So you either give a definite time for vetting or get rid of it. Or actually apply it across board to everyone that is applying for an ID. Yeah. That is the other solution. Either apply to every single Kenyan applying for an ID or get rid of vetting. Or actually, if you don't want to get rid of it, give it a specific time. If it is 1, 2 or 3 months, make sure by that time it is done and the person has their ID.
So are we putting a petition again? Am I introducing a bill on the floor of Parliament?
See.
Are you helping?
We'll see. I have no problem.
Yeah.
If she seeks my help, I am there.
I mean, I think for me, because nobody has monopoly of information, and nobody also works in a vacuum. So for me, first things first, a lot of young people, especially young lawyers, who we've worked with again when I was in the activism space, have come forward and said, you know, Naomi, you're there. And I can already feel the tone changing. It's not more like, Umi, what can we do? Because when we're in the NGO world, we're like, who can we seek, which doors can we knock on? Right now it's like, Umi, you're there, we demand, we need you, we need. And I like that, because at least I have people who will keep me on my toes.
Should I join the bandwagon as well to keep you on check?
Sure.
Keep on toes. Because now you're representing us.
Yes.
Guys, it's almost time. I mean, I didn't even realize how time flew. And unfortunately, we may have to wrap up in the next 5 minutes or so. So just allow me to welcome you guys and give your parting shots and closing remarks as we are wrapping up this conversation tonight.
Okay, so mine is to thank you. I was last year in 2019, I think, to talk about the same issues. So I'm very excited, you invited me over. I think it's one of my first interviews.
Wow. The first, actually, since you became the MP.
Yes, I think it's one, because a lot of calls have been coming and I wasn't able to fulfill all of them.
Wow.
So much
Mama did it.
But I think I'm glad, because again, this is the same community I represent, so it's one of my first points to speak directly to them. I would definitely want to continue working with you guys, wherever you see maybe I'm faltering or I'm not doing the right thing. Bado sijazima simu. So so if you my Twitter is open, so if there's anything you think that needs our voice, please feel free to reach out. We are a group of young women as well within the house, and also we have Muslim gentlemen. I think this time the number is bigger, so we should be able to front for our rights more fiercely than we did before.
Yeah, amazing. Inshallah, we wish you all the best. Tutaingia kando. Kuna mheshimiwa, moshi natuacha aje.
Yeah, for me, the topic today is young Muslim leaders. For me, what I pray for the Muslim leaders who have gone into office, they need to understand what the Deen says about Imam al-Adil, kiongozi mwadilifu. In everything you do, remember you're a Muslim. Be the example. Do not get absorbed. And may the big man syndrome never catch up with them. Because at the end of the day, that is what detaches them from the people. The big man syndrome. She just talked about the change number, Jazima Simu. The moment you do that, then you're no longer representing people. You're representing your stomach. You get? And that is a sad reality. What I pray for in this leadership that is there, policies should be more people-centric and more public participation. That is the only way we can move as a country. So I have faith, and I'm a man who gives benefit of the doubt. It's a new parliament. That's why I told you. They haven't settled in. It's a new parliament. They haven't even had a session yet. Let them have a proper session, and then from there, and I follow parliament. From there, I'll know whether how things. In a couple of months, we'll know whether this parliament is either still an executive,
extension of executive,
or is it now free and independent. And that is why we talk about separation of powers. It actually has to come. People are talking about how the judiciary is independent. We want now parliament to tell the government no when it's no, and vote with it. And I like what Kaluma said. He said that I will vote when the government brings something on the floor of the House and it benefits Kenyans, I'll vote yes. But if it brings something that is baseless and will hurt the people, I'll vote no. So what we want is look beyond your political affiliations. Just because you're in Kenya Kwanza and the president is now your party leader, doesn't mean you vote for yes for everything. You can also tell them, this boss, this one we have to put aside. But sadly, most fear the repercussions.
Thanks so much, Noordean Khagai. I mean, it's amazing. Young people oozing wisdom, and then you hear somebody in the street say bado ati vijana ni viongozi wa kesho. So you're wondering, where will these two amazing brains fit? Honestly speaking, We cannot afford to lose these brains. We need to get them in the position of power. I'm making a public appeal to His Excellency the President and the Deputy President and anybody who's going to be appointed in the executive. Now, because the legislature is done, judiciary they have their own processes. Now the executive, I mean, it's in the process of being formed. So, and I'm making a public appeal. Your Excellency, you've just heard how these people are speaking and you've heard the wisdom, and I'm sure you agree with most of what they say. Your Excellency, I assure you, there are hundreds of thousands of such people out there. Hundreds of them and thousands of them. Give them positions in your government. Give them the opportunity in your government, irrespective of the position. PAs, assistants, whatever. Even CSs, they won't mind, I'm sure. And they will do an exemplary job. You've already had their speeches and their ideas, so you know how they're thinking. I'm sure they will not disappoint. My name is Faisal Kassim, and see you next week, same place, same time, as we will be interviewing one of the superstars in the just concluded general election in this country. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Horizon TV, the beacon for the nation. Verse of the day.